My name is Fernando Gonzalez. I just turned 29 years old. I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis about 6 years ago. I was 22 at the time, about to be 23. What was happening at that point is I actually started going blind from my left eye. I couldn't see, it was very blurry. I didn't know what was going on, so I went to the optometrist. He checked me out, kind of looked at me and didn't really see what the problem was. So he sent me to a specialist. I went to the ophthalmologist who looked at me, kind of checked me out. At that point, he let me know that I had to go get an MRI like right that second. He said I either had a brain tumor or multiple sclerosis. So it was a very fun time in my life. I remember at the end, I got the MRI. I spent a week in the hospital getting just steroids to reduce swelling in the brain. And that cleared up my eye right away. During that time at the hospital, I remember kind of just being very scared of what the future looked like for me. I've seen the worst of this disease with my mother. Unfortunately, she was diagnosed maybe 25 years ago or so. And she had gone undiagnosed for about 10 years. So no disease modifying drugs, no treatment, nothing of that sort. About 10, 15 years ago, she she couldn't really walk anymore. So she's been bedridden for about, again, 10 to 15 years. She's, in a wheelchair. I've seen her hands kind of not work as well. She forgets a lot of things, just kind of very incoherent at times. Little things like that where it has really affected her. So I've seen the worst of it. And I remember at the time, being, again, very scared of what the future had in store for me. At that time, I was a relatively healthy, 22-year-old kid, just, living my life, going to the gym 4 or 5 times a week, eating whatever I wanted because, when you're young, you could eat whatever and you don't gain weight. After that, I, started on medication. I saw my neurologist, and he started me on Avonex, which is shots once a week to the thighs. With that, I was able to still go to the gym. I would go maybe 3 times a week now. And as opposed to staying maybe like an hour and a half at times, 45 minutes. And then I would start, getting really hot, and I would feel, kind of like that heat exhaustion where I couldn't go as long. My stamina wasn't as great. And I would just feel a little bit tired at times. No matter how much I rested, I would feel tired. After about a year, due to the medication, the symptoms that I had from it, I changed medications. Basically, when I would take those shots, it was, I would have the flu the very next day. Basically, flu-like symptoms. I would have just headaches all day. It's just little things like that. I would have headaches. I would feel sick, groggy. And that was affecting, my work, because I would, every Friday I would go in and I was basically sick. I couldn't really do much. I changed the medication to Tecfidera, which was pills that you take twice a day. I did that for about 2 years. After about a year on that medication, I had a relapse where I wasn't feeling well. I was experiencing, again, a little bit more drop foot. As I would walk, I would feel like I was, again, dragging my right foot. And I stuck on the medication. My neurologist didn't change medications for me. But I did feel that I was a little bit more intolerant to the heat. Anytime anything would feel hot, living in El Paso is ideal. That's a joke. No, it's totally the opposite of what you want, especially for me, because anytime it would become, it was around March or June, and the weather would start heating up, I would feel like tingling on my back. Some days when I would kind of like bend my head down, I would feel like a shock in my back. I would just feel really tired, and you know, I would feel better whenever I would get in a place with either something cold. I would drink cold water, something like that. So it was just worsening of symptoms for just a really short time, and that had been something that I started noticing about, what was it, maybe 2 years into this diagnosis, I guess. After that, I started on medication called Aubagio, which is pills once a day. Did that again for about 2 years. And again, I did see that little by little, I would have a relapse, and I would feel, again, that drop foot. I would feel like I couldn't walk as long. I would start tensing up, kind of picking up my shoulders, and I would feel, again, just like I was out of balance. And that's kind of what happened. I stopped taking medications actually last November. So last December. It's actually been about a year that I have taken actually no disease modifying drugs. I have gone on steroids twice due to, again, little relapses. But right now, the biggest thing that I'm doing is I'm going to be getting a treatment called hematopoietic stem cell transplant. Basically HSCT for short. What this treatment is it's basically a bone marrow transplant. So if you know about a bone marrow transplant, it's you get some chemotherapy, they take out your stem cells or your bone marrow, and then what they're going to do is give you more chemotherapy in hopes of completely wiping out your immune system. So you are very susceptible to infections or any other diseases. Again, because your immune system is so compromised, what they do is they put your stem cells back into your system in hopes of kind of getting your immune system started and kind of going a little bit faster. After that, you know, the hope of this, or the I guess the end goal of this is to have your body and your immune system kind of forget that it ever had any sort of disease. So I'll be getting that next year in 2020, at which point I know I'm going to have, you know, it's going to be a long process of a lot of physical therapy to kind of get my walking back in order. I've seen that again the last 2 years, my right leg, I've been having even more issues kind of walking, where, you know, when I was younger, I'd be able to run a football field back and forth. I was in track, I was in football. I did a lot of these athletic things back in my day, right? Anyways, where before I could run 100 to 300 whatever yards sprinting, now walking about 100 yards is a struggle. And again, I feel like my foot's dragging. I feel very wobbly, unstable. I have seen that, you know, my memory's been affected a little bit. Maybe I'll forget things here and there that probably shouldn't forget. What else? Yeah, my right leg, again, it's been hyperextending a lot. And because of that, you know, I had to wear a knee brace. But after this treatment, after all the therapy, after everything, I'm excited for what the future holds. I know I'm gonna beat this disease, and I know, I don't know, it's gonna be something really good. And yeah, thank you guys.